What is up, Fantasy League enjoyers? How are you doing on this fine day? I got top 22%, which is the best I've done in quite some time. And so, while I'm happy with this result, everyone else seemed to do really well on the celebrity leaderboard as well. So I haven't really gained any ground or lost any ground. It's kind of a bit of a status quo. I think most people were expecting Vitality to win the tournament. Maybe not in the nature they won the event, though. Incredibly close with Falcons taking them to their limits in a fantastic BO5 full 5 mapper. Nuke in particular is one of the crowning moments of that series, and a really good argument, I would say, and a real good reason to look at best of 5 finals as maybe a mainstay. I would love it to be the case in the majors. We'll have to wait and see if that ever does change, though. But it was an amazing match. But I was a bit disappointed because I went for Flamesy. And Flamesy, even though Vitality won the whole tournament, you can see here in the finals, he only picked up 3 points. -5 for rating points. Rough, very rough indeed. And if I'd just forked out a little bit of extra and had ROPS, then I would have been in a much better position and got way more points. So it is what it is. However, the real player that blew me away in terms of what he did at this tournament was Tesses. And listen, I've been on the Tesses hype train for a while. If you've watched these videos, you'll remember back in the heroic days, I was always looking at picking this guy up if I could afford it. I think that he has really underperformed to his level as a Falcons player. A lot of the times it's probably because of all the moving parts and pieces that were going back and forth of like the whole Dexter situation and then Munacy coming in. But we're starting to see the Tesses that I know he is capable of being. On his day, he is mechanically maybe the most gifted or one of the most gifted players on the server. Like, he is just unbelievably good. His headshot percentage is out of control. He is an amazing prospect for the future and still pretty young. So these rumors about them removing Tesses for Kaiosuke, I would be very underwhelmed if they did remove him right now. I think he's at least bought himself some extra time to prove what he can do. I hope that they do stick with him. I hope those rumors are just rumors and stay way in the background. I've heard people talking about Majors getting removed. I'm not so sure, man. Like, I'm not going to sit here and defend his stats, but stats don't paint the full picture. They don't give you the full access to what's going on within a team. He plays a lot of roles where you are typically going to struggle to prevail and shine. He does make some pretty big mistakes, though. I'm thinking of that play on Nuke where he goes down into the vents and he switches to a grenade and gets killed. Things like that do still happen. But I think he plays roles within the team that allows others to shine brighter. And so it kind of reminds me a little bit, and I'm not saying they're similar players, but it reminds me a bit of Taco. If you remember back in the day when he played with coldzera, really did allow him to set up and thrive. And I get similar kind of feelings with this Magisk position within the team. Obviously, they have a very close relationship between him and Zonic. And if it's a case of saying, like, listen, your prime days are behind you, you're not going to be this amazing sort of like one of the star players or one of the players that's popping off, dropping 20s, 25s every game. We need you to be more of a supportive element. We need you to set up players like Nico, like Munacy, like Tesses. Then I can see him having a really good position in this squad. And keep in mind as well, I kind of thought Falcons would probably make the finals. Why I picked 2 of them, plus the budget, obviously. But on top of that, I wasn't so sure that they'd be able to have this kind of success this early because they had such a small amount of time with Munacy. And Munacy in this event did have a very slow start. If you look at some of his stats, he was towards the middle of the pack, which obviously when he was playing with G2 was not the case. He was pretty much always the top dog. So I think this is a team that is only going to get better with time. It's only going to get more scary, more fierce, and more full of threats. And so do keep an eye out for that one. But yeah, I mean, Vitality getting the win, huge for them. Bit disappointed with Flamesy, and then obviously -11 for Brolan was a little bit rough. But it was like a coin flip for me between Falcons and Mouse. I thought Falcons had a real shot, but I wanted to have a Mouse player in there as well, just in case. So with that all being said and out of the way, let's have a look at these 2 groups. There's only 2 groups, and not too many games either. So Group A is going to feature Vitality, Wildcard, Mouse, and Pain. Group B, Spirit, FlyQuest, FaZe, and Falcons. So let's just discuss Group A real quick. I think it's important to mention before we get into the Vitality game against Wildcard that this is Pain with a completely new look. So from Melbourne, you'll remember Bigazera was unable to make it. He had some hearing condition or hearing problems, and traveling for that distance on a plane, with the pressure and everything else. I don't mean like the pressure of playing. I mean the pressure physically of the decompression and all that kind of stuff. Can mess with ears at the best of times. If you've ever flown a lot, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about with the popping and the ringing and all that kind of stuff. So for health reasons, he was unable to attend the event. And they also had, of course, Demo was playing alongside it. So they had what was his name, Rix, I think it was. Rix was playing instead, and then they also had Demo. Now those two components have now been removed. DGT's in this team. Big Azera is back. They got Davideus, who of course is also a new recruit, alongside NQZ and then Snow. I think this team is going to actually be a genuine contender for a top 10, maybe even top 5 going forward, but it's way too soon. Like, they've just picked DGT up from 9Z. He's an amazing talent, really good player. Big Azera back is amazing. This team is looking really good to me, like actually amazing, but it's too soon. And I think Mouse are going to beat them. I will say, is there a chance for an upset? Definitely a possibility. Like, I wouldn't write it against Pain coming out here and maybe catching Mouse a little bit slow out of the gates. You have to keep into account as well, it's going to be less the case for Mouse, who obviously went out in the semi-final side. But for Vitality and for Falcons, jet lag may be a problem. And I wouldn't normally mention this, but you're talking about flying quite literally from Australia around the world back to Europe again, where the travel time is excessive. It's 25, 30 hours, depending on layovers and all that kind of stuff. And so it is possible that some of these players are going to be feeling a little bit out of sorts, maybe not playing at their absolute A game, especially for the first day. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be a deal breaker, or it's going to, allow Wildcard to get a win over Vitality, or obviously like FaZe maybe get a pickup win on Falcons. But I do want to just put it out there as like a potential variable, right? Because it should be discussed. Melbourne to back to Denmark is no joke, and it's gonna have a bit of impact on a few of these players. But I still think Vitality beat Wildcard, and I think Mouse will meet them in the upper finals. Pain and Wildcard in the lower finals will be a very close game. I think in terms of potential of like firepower and strength, Pain probably would be the favorites there as Wildcard. They're a good team, don't get me wrong. Like, they've shown a lot of times that they're a solid squad under Stanislaw's leadership. But I would expect this to be Vitality winning the upper finals. And then in the lower finals, I think that Pain will beat Wildcard, would be my guess. In Group B, Spirit and FlyQuest, FaZe and Falcons. FlyQuest with Regali as their AWP is proving a lot of people wrong, I would say, in terms of not necessarily picking up results, but people expecting them to get absolutely annihilated. They picked up some pretty impressive rounds. They picked up a map here and there as well. Obviously, that's in front of what you could suppose say technically a home crowd, even though I believe it was only 2 Australians in the team for FlyQuest, and Regali is Romanian. So take that with a pinch of salt, but I do think that playing against Spirit here is kind of a rough deal for them. This is a Spirit that hasn't really been playing much lately, and although they looked a bit rocky the last few times we've seen them, I have to believe that they've been hard at work, ready to jump into this tournament and really get things rolling for the major. So I think realistically, Spirit probably steamroll FlyQuest here. I would expect it to be pretty one-sided. And then FaZe and Falcons is potentially going to be a closer game. I did talk about this in my previous video, and then I never got round, I actually forgot, I never got round to fully expressing what I thought about FaZe right now. So I guess I'll talk about them now quickly. I've been very underwhelmed with this FaZe pickup, and this comes from somebody that the roster move that probably made me the most excited and the most hyped was Elige going to FaZe. I thought this would be the step FaZe needed to go from being like a contender of maybe like a top 5 squad to right in the race for like top 3, maybe even contending to be the best team in the world. It's a team that has tons and tons of ability on it. Obviously, Elige is going to be joining alongside the likes of Frozen, who's an amazing talent. Then you've also got Brokey, who's very up and down, but when he's hitting, he is one of the best AWPers on the planet, if not the best, as far as I'm concerned, with his close-range AWPing, the things this guy is capable of. The downside is, as we're seeing more as time goes on, is you have those crazy days where he is one of the best AWPers, if not the best, almost untouchable, to having 5 or 6 games in a row where he barely even gets on the server, and that's a problem. And then Rain, who's had like some pretty good performances as of late, actually has been one of the guys leading the charge on this team, but it was mainly Elige. Elige was the piece that I thought they were missing. Yes, they lost Rops, and that was a big deal, but the way Rops was playing for that last sort of 6 months, except for the major, was very underwhelming, and so it was hard to say with absolute certainty that he would join Vitality and suddenly reach a new level, right? That was all speculation. It's hard to say that as like a guaranteed, certainty. Obviously, that's what has happened, and now Vitality are a step above everybody else. But I thought Unleash coming into this FaZe team would be really exciting and it would kind of reinvent them. And then I heard, oh, he's calling sometimes on CT side and he's way more vocal in the team. And I thought, oh no. Oh no. Not necessarily that I've got a problem with Unleash being more vocal, but you have Carrigan there. You have like this guy that is in the contendership, if not like at this point, maybe solidified as the GOAT IGL with how Glaive's been struggling with Ents in multiple iterations and hasn't had success for a considerable amount of time. He's definitely in the top 3 for sure. And you're thinking, oh, like, I understand you might want to change things around. I understand bringing a new player in. This is a point that a lot of people don't often talk about. It's not just the like for like fitting into the positions, but their personality, their quirks, what they bring to the table are all different. And so Unleash does have more of a commanding voice. It's something that Grimm talked about when he had interviews with Complexity about, you know, how Unleash left the team and he was very vocal and he was a huge part of it. It's something that G2 have been very vocal about with Nico and his mid-round calling, etc. And so it's always going to be something that comes into play, but I just didn't feel like Carrigan needed that. I felt like you want to get behind Carrigan. Now, if it's his choice, fair enough, but it has not worked out so far. This is one of the first times I can honestly say where I haven't had much faith in FaZe. And I've always been the kind of guy that had faith in them. They always managed to make things happen. I'll always go back to the Antwerp performance where coming into the event, you know, Rain was being slated, people saying get rid of him, he has to go, he has to leave. Twist wasn't playing as well as people expected, and people thought FaZe would get smashed out before the quarters even happened. They ended up winning the whole thing. Rain got MVP. The rest is history. And they've always managed to just somehow find a way, find a winning formula to make it through the group stage. They've always, you know, had their slips and slides and struggles in group stages, but then made the playoffs and gone far in playoffs, even made the finals, or maybe been knocked out by a semi-finals team that ended up winning the event. And so for the longest time, it was easy to have faith in FaZe, but that faith is now dwindling. Their performance at Melbourne was not good enough. Their performance at probably 3 or 4 events now in a row has not been good enough. And credit to Freya for having the courage to kind of ask the tough questions to Neo and say, is this good enough? You know, one of the interviews that she had with him, and he was basically like, no, this is not good enough. We are working hard, but like it's not working out as we want it to. And so you come into this event, to put it back into the present, against Falcons, a team that has just took Vitality to their absolute limits, very nearly won the grand finals, the best of 5, so soon with m0NESY's move, and you know they're going to get stronger with time. Sure, maybe jet lag plays a factor. FaZe went home earlier. They've had a bit of extra time. Also, you know, the likes of Carrigan are from Denmark, so they're back home again. But I still don't think that that's a big enough thing for me to go in favor of FaZe here. I think Falcons steamroll this game. They just look way too good. They look way too good. So early on, you got Tesses popping off, as I mentioned earlier. Nico's playing well. Kixan also as an IGL, by the way, he's been really lighting up the scoreboard. He's been very impressive. Down there as a fragging IGL. And so I just think Falcons are going to walk this game. Spirit and Falcons is a very interesting game because, as I mentioned, we haven't seen Spirit for a while. So I don't know how strong and how much of a power-up they're going to have coming into this event, but that for me is a really exciting game. If it is Spirit and Falcons in the upper finals, that for me is like kind of a 50-50 coin flip. I might slightly go in favor of Falcons from what I've seen, but I wouldn't be surprised if Spirit did get the W. So that's my general sort of take on how these games are going to be coming in. Of course, should be mentioned, they're all best of 3s, so upset's going to be less likely. And so with all that being said, this is a team that I've gone for. So I wanted to go for double Vitality because they're the best team in the world right now. And I wanted to go for double Falcons because I think they've looked really, really damn good. So that was a bit of a no-brainer for me. I managed to find a formula with the budget to get Tessis involved. He's 199k, guys. Like, listen, I'm going to say right now, that's because they didn't update the prices after the semi-finals. So his price was like 199k coming into the grand finals. The way he played in the grand finals, you could easily justify having Tessis up at 205, 207k, right? So all I'm saying is, whether you love Falcons or you hate them or whatever in between, Tessis for 199k is absolutely ridiculous value for money. And so obviously I'm picking him up every day of the week. Kixan also down at low amounts, 184 was it? 182, it's even better. An obvious pickup for me because I think Falcons will go pretty far. And Kixan can frag. He can also land himself a bunch of points as we saw in the previous tournament. And then you've got Mezzi, who I think is looking really good right now, and Rops. I went for Flamesy last time, didn't quite do the work for me at Melbourne, so I'm going to go for Rops this time and see how he fares. But I did want to also have a Spirit player thrown in the mix as well. Chopper was pretty cheap, not too shabby, so I've gone for Chopper in case Spirit do manage to get across the finish line in the upper finals ahead of Falcons if something goes wrong. But I think Vitality for me are by far the best team in Group A, and so double stacking with them and putting the bulk of my funds in Vitality just seemed like a no-brainer. I did try to get a team with Spirit with Donk in, but he's still 235k, which is kind of difficult to justify right now, especially with Spirit having like this kind of like question mark over their head. But either way, that's my team, guys. Do you agree or do you disagree? Comment in the section below. Let me know how you did in Melbourne, and I guess we'll have to wait and find out how Rivals goes. See you in the next one. Peace.